Has the house risen that you're returning home?
Not for another 6 weeks yet.
How did you find it in Westminster? My uncle tells me it's a regular gossip shop.
That's what you make of it?
So my cousin-in-law, George, used to say. Bitter blow you struck him when you deprived him of his seat. Mind you, Mr. Warlegan is no laggard in furthering his own affairs.
That I have noticed.
I've been staying a few days with the Carlyons. You know the Carlyons?
My name?
They have a very fine cook. Their spring lamb with asparagus and roast calf's heart. As I keep telling my wife, it's the conjunction of dishes that makes the table.
How is your wife?
Dr. Behenna believes she must be suffering from a disorder of the spleen. The child, I am glad to say, is in fine fettle. A handsome boy. Very different from the little weakling the Ennises have produced.
Dr. Ennis's baby?
Dribbles all day long, so they say. Lurching is enough to turn a man's bile. I swear I was at sea only once, but it was no worse than this. Tell me, Poldark, I presume you know Viscount Falmouth well, since you sit in his pocket, or should I say in his pocket borough. Perhaps you could use your good offices with him on my behalf. I am seeking the living at Luxillian, and he's bound to be well in with the new Bishop of Exeter.
I'm sorry to hear you're leaving Truro.
Oh, I'm not. I just wish to augment my sparse income. These days, a man in holy orders must possess at least 2 livings in order to subsist.
But you already have 2 livings. That in my own parish of Saul is one of them.
Oh, the expenses incurred there almost eat up the increment. Now, there could be such a thing as a quid pro quo in this Poldark. My uncle, Colin Godolphin, is a close personal friend of the Prince of Wales, and sometimes a friend at court can be of single advantage to a man in the Commons, especially a distant country member without a title or connections. What do you say, sir?
At Saul, you have a curate named Odgers. On £45 a year, he lives no better than a farrier. I am prepared to ask Lord Falmouth to intercede for you, on condition you raise Mr. Odgers' stipend to £100 a year. That is the quid pro quo I envisage. What do you say, sir?
Have it.
Madam, I was only admiring it.
Oh, I have no use for it. I can never find anywhere in the house where it suits.
Take it while you have the chance, Miss Townley.
No, truly, Mrs. Ennis. Now, may I look for Clarence to try on the bonnet? I've taken it in a little, just a touch you'd not notice.
Oh, it's lovely. Isn't she a clever milliner, Caroline? If ever you have any sewing to do at Kilwarren, you simply must send for Mary Ann.
She shall make some dresses for Sarah.
Oh, I'm sure she will when the time comes.
I shall not have her wrapped in swaddling bands for much longer, Demelza. I can't wait for the day when she will at least be recognizable as a member of the female sex.
I'm sure you can't wait for the day when you can put her in a riding habit and send her out hunting. Ross.
Demelza, you didn't tell me.
You didn't tell me. Mary Ann, go and tell the children their father's home. They're playing in the long meadow. Ross.
Ross.
Caroline.
We weren't expecting you for weeks yet.
How's your baby? What did you christen her?
Sarah.
Sarah.
I wrote and told you. Didn't you get my letter? She's some handsome.
She is just as I anticipated. Lies in a cradle with the wickedest smile you can imagine and expects to be waited on day and night. My poor little dog is quite neglected, I'm ashamed to say.
Oh, you're not going on my account?
No, on Demelza's.
Between them, she and Dwight spoil her dreadfully. How long are you staying?
Till Parliament reassembles in the autumn.
The whole summer? Oh. I thought you were just visiting. How's Parliament? You spoke in the slavery debate, didn't you? Sir John Trevornant saw it reported in a paper and cut it out and sent it to me. I got it here somewhere. I show it to everyone.
Did you say the children were playing in the long meadow?
Yes, that's right. Mary Ann's gone to get them. They'll be here in a minute.
Well, I think I'll go down there myself and surprise them.
Yes, of course.
That impudent squireen Poldark was on the coach, coming home from Parliament early. George was not so neglectful of his duties when he was a member. Well, where's the boy?
In the garden.
How often have I said he's not to be left unattended? There's the hazard of the river.
He is not unattended. His nurse is with him. Do you want a meal, or will you wait now till supper?
What is there?
We have spring chicken, tongue, the remains of a leg of mutton, and some custard tart.
custard tart. When one has dined at one of the great houses, one realizes the uncouthness of what one has to eat at home. Oh, dear, Nat Pierce wants to see me urgently. I'll wager the most urgent matter for Lawyer Pierce is the delivery of his next cask of wine. Very well, Morwenna. See if you can tempt me with some of your cold chicken.
Dear Vicar, it is more than a year now since I left your home to marry Arthur, and at the time I must have taken, inadvertently, some books of yours. I know if I bring them to your door I shall be turned away, but should you be able to call for them yourself at 17 Callanick Street, I would look on this as a special sign of your condescension and forgiveness. I remain, sir, your respectful and obedient servant and sister-in-law, Rowella Solway.
Children are hoping you'll go up and see them.
I've said goodnight to them once.
Oh, that's what I told them. Did everything go well in the mine? You wasted no time in going there.
South Lode is not yielding as we hoped it would.
I told you that in my last letter. It's a setback, that's all.
We can't afford another such failure in the next few months.
The fireback's come away in the hearth. I was thou straight to make it good.
Well, it's nothing that need call for a blacksmith.
Oh, it'll do him good to get away from that forge, even for an hour or two.
Still pining for Morwenna?
He needs a wife.
How's Sam? Is he still crossed in love too?
Well, Emma's gone to be a parlour maid now. And the arrangement is if they still feel the same about each other at the end of the year, they're to marry.
So all is not lost then?
Hope not.
And you? What have you been doing while I've been away?
Seeing to your affairs, bringing up your children, looking to the farm, waiting for your letters. Living life as always, but without you.
And how often has Hubert Druggan tried to creep into your bed?
Ross.
Well, it was meant as a joke.
A poor joke.
Yes. But there was a time when we would have laughed. Well, aren't you going to ask me how I lived without you? Or do you suppose I was a monk?
Do I have a right to ask?
There are beautiful women in London.
I'm sure there are.
The women of London are probably the most beautiful in the world.
Quite lately.
I asked one up to my room one night. She called me a trike.
What's strike?
No matter.
Oh, I look it up in the dictionary.
Won't be in the dictionary.
Ross, what are you trying to tell me?
I'll go and see if the children are asleep.
You've come back a stranger.
The estrangement was none of my doing.
Nor mine. Nor mine. You didn't even tell me you'd been nominated for Parliament till you've been elected.
You had other things on your mind.
Oh, Ross. We should not let this come so much between us.
It is between us. Like a barricade.
A barricade you've been building in your mind. All the months you've been away.
One I've been trying to get through. But because I cannot, I've come home. It's here the battle must be fought.
What battle?
With a ghost, a shade, a memory, a poem.
It's time we retired, Morwenna.
I would like to finish this chapter.
You must not strain your eyes. And then I shall await you in the bedroom. You will not be long.
Osborne, you understand that nothing has changed.
Let us agree it's time it did.
I swear before God that if you force your attentions upon me, I will kill your son.
You are a demented woman.
I mean it.
I am your husband. You have no right to deny me.
I would rather be hanged as a murderess.
I can only suppose that he finds his affairs in Cornwall more pressing than his responsibilities as a member of Parliament.
You can hardly berate him for that, my dear. Poldark has attended the House more than most, I'm told, if with little effect.
I would hardly have expected him to have made much of a mark.
Oh, forgive me,
Oh, come in, my dear. Let me present Captain Monk Adderley, Member of Parliament for Shropshire.
Oh, Shropshire. I've heard that's a very beautiful county indeed.
Yes, so have I, ma'am. I always mean to visit it.
Not every Member of Parliament lives in the county that returns him. Monk represents the Lord Croft interest. He is also related to Sir Christopher Hawkins.
When shall we have the pleasure of seeing you in town, Mrs. Warleggett?
If by town you mean London, that will depend entirely on my husband, Captain Adderley.
And that may depend on the progress of our discussion.
Will you be dining with us?
That's uncommonly civil of you, but I'm promised at Sir Christopher Hawkins' place this afternoon, and that must be at least 2 hours' drive from here.
Oh, not so far. Now, surely we can prevail on you. We shall dine within the hour.
Then I should be very much obliged to you, Mrs. Warleggett. Thank you.
If you'll excuse me, I'll inform the kitchen.
Strikes me, my dear, that you have everything a reasonable man could possibly want.
Perhaps a man is not altogether reasonable when he has lost something he most valued.
I would have thought that finding another seat in a parliament that is barely, what, 6, 7 months old, presents difficulties, don't you know?
Even in a county returning 44 members?
Only 3 of them belong to Sir Christopher Hawkins, and he has no reason to complain of their behavior, I think.
So, what would you advise?
Dining out the other day, I was told that your grandfather was a blacksmith who worked a forge in Hale and hadn't a shilling to his name, but that you, my dear, had acquired a fortune of £200,000.
The only misinformation in that remark is that my grandfather's forge was not in Hale.
At election times, the government usually has seats to sell for £3,000 or £4,000.
I'm not so much concerned to buy a seat as a borough. I do not wish to dance for a patron. I wish to be the patron myself.
That will certainly prove expensive.
Perhaps you could tell Sir Christopher that money I have, and I'm prepared to lay it out as he advises.
Oh, Drake, you've done it.
Anyone could have done it, sister. Even Judd.
Oh, take a smithy to make a proper job of it.
If there's nothing else, Mrs. Poldark, I'd be working home now.
Right. But you'll take this stool today, Marianne.
Madam, are you sure?
It'll only end up in the attic otherwise. Oh, Drake, do you know Marianne Tamlin? She lives with the family at Saul.
Miss Tamlin, I seen you about.
Oh, and as you've finished here and are going away, perhaps you carry the stool for her.
Oh, madam, I can manage. 'Tis no great weight, and I'm used to fetching and carrying.
Oh, 'tis no trouble to Drake, is it, Drake?
No.
Ah, Drake, will you come over to the mine with some tools delivered from Bristol? I'd like your opinion on it.
Oh, Drake's accompanying Miss Tamlin home. Anything to do with the mine can wait till tomorrow.
As you say.
I'll come over to the mine tomorrow then, Captain Ross. Right, miss?
Bye, madam.
Glad I could be about with the fire back, sister.
It's a pity Marianne's got that limp.
Your matchmaking will get you into mischief.
It's not matchmaking. It's a question of propinquity.
Well, you certainly went to the dictionary for that one.
It means 2 things that just happen to be side by side, as it were.
At your invitation, a more flagrant contrivance I never saw.
Well, I can't abide to see my brother so unhappy. I want to see him laugh again.
You'll never displace Morwenna from his heart.
After all this time, why not? Oh, I know you think that 8 months isn't long enough to get over the sorrow of a loved one.
Is it?
Oh, Ross, don't you understand? What I felt for Hugh is over. Hugh's dead. Just as Morwenna should seem dead to Drake. Look, she's married to the vicar of St. Margaret's, and nothing can break that alliance.
It puzzles me why you should have been called, Dr. Behenna. As I keep telling my husband, I am in excellent health. I am so sorry you were troubled.
Where are you going?
I thought to take John for a walk by the river.
By the river?
He will come to no harm, Osborne. Why should he?
Well, did she admit her threats to the boy?
No,
Did you question her about them?
I'm convinced such threats are empty, Mr. Whitworth.
Should I ignore them? You think I can confidently take that risk?
I confess your wife is of a highly nervous disposition.
She is demented, sir.
If she ever really did
Am I to wait till such a monstrous crime is committed? Surely the threat is enough.
And you say it's because she's not prepared to submit herself to your desires.
But why is she not? The very refusal is proof there is something wrong with her. I'm not an old man, Dr. Behenna. I'm in the prime of life. I am her husband. To deny me is in itself not natural.
But hardly proof that she's not in her right mind.
Oh, there are other signs. You must have observed spasms of savage excitement followed by periods of such melancholy she'll talk to no one.
I admit there are some grounds for anxiety.
There are grounds for but one course of action, Dr. Behenna. To have her committed.
Going too fast for you, am I?
No, tis just right.
You have only to say.
Your sister's very good to me. She gives me work at Nampara every week.
I expect she needs you. I never seen the Mel's a mate was sewing. Who learned you?
Mostly myself. Then I borrowed a book on it from Mrs. Odger.
You can read?
Yes. Man, I don't read easy.
My sister learned me.
Mrs. Poldark?
I have only the one. Several brothers.
Sam the preacher's your brother, innit? A rare good man.
Are you the connection?
No. I just go church Sundays.
I appreciate the strain that enforced celibacy must have on a man of your vigor.
Was not marriage expressly ordained by St. Paul for those who do not have the gift of continency?
I do not,
If
however,
a man and a woman
see-
do not become of one flesh, the very rubric of the wedding service makes it plain what may come to pass.
I do not see how committing your wife is going to help. You can hardly remarry.
Certainly not. The marriage bond is indissoluble. No, I would be forced to engage a housekeeper, some good woman who would know her place and see to my needs. You yourself have a housekeeper, Dr. Behenna.
Indeed. But I could not be happy so, knowing that my wife was confined to a madhouse.
Insanity is well understood to be a judgment on the wicked. It is not that I wish to see her chained in an asylum. I am thinking of some private retreat. There is a place at St. Neots. She would be looked after by competent persons, away from the strain of life in a busy vicarage. All that requires is a letter from you to carry sufficient weight with both her relatives and the bishop.
The bishop?
Oh, I would need his sympathy. This is a very delicate matter. It could not be my recommendation, you understand. But coming from you as her physician...
This is a very grave step that you're contemplating. We must do nothing hasty.
Remember, I am a man, Behenna, with all man's natural needs. If my wife denies them...
If you'll excuse me, Mr. Whitworth, I have to attend on Mr. Pierce.
Pierce?
The notary. He's hoping that you might see fit to call on him soon. I understand he wrote to you.
Well, there can be naught wrong with Nat Pierce that abstinence from canary wine will not cure.
Perhaps the next time you're in Callanwick Street, you could find time to call on him.
Callanwick Street?
Oh, that's where he lives, the upper end.
Yes, I know. I've played whist with him there many times. It's just that I do not know when I may find myself in that quarter of the town.
Meantime, I suggest I call on your wife again in a month or two.
A month or two?
This matter needs thinking on, Mr. Whitworth.
Do not delay too long, for I fear for what may come to pass.
Good day, Mr. Whitworth.
George has no right to fence this land. It's been a right-of-way for centuries. He puts fences round everything.
Legally, can I suppose?
Legally, what does that mean?
Oh, Ross. Look, it's not George you're so bitter about at the moment, is it? You do better knocking down the barricades between us than George's fences.
When I saw you weeping at his bedside, I realized what he meant to you. I felt excluded.
You should not have felt so.
If Armitage had lived, I could have won you back in a fair fight. How can I fight a ghost?
You don't have to fight anyone. It's over.
Because he's dead?
It's over.
But not forgotten.
Is Elizabeth forgotten? Ever since I've known you, I've had to compete with an ideal. Oh, I know it's easier for me. Fending off blows is second nature to me. I had to learn that the moment I was born, but you bleed more easy. The tears I shed at Hugh's death were only partly for him. All that youth and gentleness buried into the ground. But I knew how you were suffering. And all these months you've been away. It's not for Hugh Armitage I've been grieving. My tears are for us, Ross, for us.
Ah, Mr. Whitworth. You'll regret to see me in this state. I regret it myself. Everyone regrets it.
In what way may I assist you, Mr. Pierce?
I know this gouty condition has a little affected my hearing, but curiously, I can always hear you, my boy. I suppose it's being a cleric used to preaching and the like.
I cannot stay long, Mr. Pierce. I have other calls to make in the vicinity.
Seems no time at all since I was your age. Life's like one of those hobby horses you ride on at a fair. Suddenly the music stops.
A little fasting and you'll soon be up again playing whist. Did you forswear any luxuries for Lent? Tell me that.
Help yourself, my boy. Noblemen have seen fit to congratulate me on my choice of Canary wine. Alas, I may not drink it myself before sundown, so Behenna says, though what difference it makes, in the end, the good God knows. And talking of the good God, I'd remind you, I live in your parish.
Job in the time of his tribulation says, if a man die, shall he live again? All the days of my appointed time will I wait till my change come.
I believe a glass of Canary would be helpful to me, my boy. You're a parson. The bishop has laid hands on you. You ought to know if anyone does.
Know what?
If it's true what you preach. Is there an afterlife? You see, I would wish to repent if I could believe there was something to it.
St. James says, blessed is the man that endureth temptation, for he shall receive the crown of life.
Alas, I've not altogether endured temptation. I've yielded here and there, and I don't fancy meeting my Maker with a burdened conscience. But is there really such a being? Do you believe these tales of hell, fire, and eternal damnation upon my soul? I don't know what to think.
God is eternal. God is omnipresent. If you travel down to the furthest most part of hell, he is there also. There is no escaping him. Is it the sins of your youth that trouble you, Mr. Pierce?
Did I sin then? If so, I had forgot. 'Tis the sins of age that trouble me.
What sins can you possibly have on your mind, Mr. Pierce? Gluttony? Sloth? I once detected, I remember you cheating at whist.
If it had only been at whist. I have, from time to time, indulged in a little speculation. It's difficult for a country lawyer to accumulate wealth, though all his life he attend on it. My speculations went astray. Money was lost instead of made.
So you are less well off. What is there to that?
I have to tell you, my boy, some of the money I speculated with was not my own.
Are you saying that Nathaniel Pierce, of all people, has been misusing monies entrusted to him?
This is just what I'm saying. And when he dies, as he seems like to at any moment, certain persons in this town will be in something of a take-in, not to mention Pascoe's bank.
Pascoes are involved.
Not directly, but as a party to the trusts in question.
You're not suggesting there could be a risk to Pascoes, are you?
Certainly not. Pascoe may have been vulnerable a few years ago, but he must have big reserves by now.
Oh, nobody in banking has big reserves now, Father, not even us, if the cards were called. But if Pascoe were under pressure at the appropriate time...
What are you saying, George?
His own son-in-law, St. John Peter, is in debt to Warleggans for £12,000. If we were to call that in, you'd have to go to Pascoe's to pay us. And if Pascoe's were in difficulties and a run on the bank were started...
George, why are you so interested? I'll see if I can get something for your cough.
Some tea or even a glass of wine. And while you're about it, can you not have the fire lit in here? The room is as drafty as Penrice.
I'll have it seen to.
I never was troubled in all my life with any affection of the bronch here till the day your Valentine was born. I caught a chill in that drafty bedroom you gave me. And I truly believe that old witch of a woman, Agatha Poldark, cast some spell upon me there that will not disperse.
Agatha casts an evil spell on all of us, even Valentine. At least she will not be here if another child is born to us.
Is that in the wind?
No.
One child is scarce enough to make sure the inheritance, my boy.
I was enough.
Not that there'll be much inheritance left. The way you're laying out money at the moment, I hear.
Have you heard what I'm laying it out on?
Derelict properties in St. Michael's. Hoping to get control of a borough?
Last year, because of an agreement between two of our so-called nobility, I lost my seat in Parliament to Ross Poldark. Now, with a borough, I get not only a seat, but control. Influence and power of a new kind altogether.
The costs do not finish when you buy the properties.
Sir Christopher Hawkins has pointed out all the pitfalls.
Well, I'm much in favor of your attempts to get back into Parliament, George. But you will lose your way if you let yourself be distracted.
By what?
Elizabeth and I both observed the look in your eye when you were talking about what could happen to Pascoe. What do you expect from that?
Ross Poldark has substantial balances in Pascoe's. Aiming at one bird, I might wing another.
You are too big now to waste your time and money paying off old scores. Buy your borough, get back into Parliament. That is looking ahead. But Poldark, does it merit the trouble you may have to take to wing him?
Yes, Father, it does.
You riding home? We can go part of the way together. How are you, Dwight?
And in spite of her protestations, I hear Caroline dotes on the baby.
But pretends not to, of course.
Of course. They're always the same with the firstborn. Every whimper is a crisis. And woe betide you, Dwight, if things go wrong.
How is it now between you and Demelza?
Well, if you're thinking of Hugh Armitage...
Armitage is dead, Ross.
What should I do about a young man? Dead, as you say. But one who nevertheless attempted to make a cuckold of me. Maybe succeeded.
Put it out of your mind.
Easily said.
Hold hard to what you've got, that's my advice. And be grateful, Ross.
I do hope Arthur hasn't taken them by mistake to the library.
What has become of them?
Thank you. I was just dressing to go out when you knocked. I'm afraid you took me quite by surprise. Is there anything I can get you while you're here, in the way of refreshment?
No, thank you. I can stay but a few minutes.
There they are. I remember now. I asked Arthur to see if he could purloin some paper from the library to wrap them in. Paper is so very expensive, isn't it? Latimer's Discourses and Jeremy Taylor's Sermons.
Did you ever read them?
I have always appreciated anything you gave me, Vicar.
How is your husband?
They've just raised his salary to £16 a year, and he does copywork at night for Mr. Pierce, the notary. With the income from what you kindly gave us. Well, we live very frugally, but I'm sure there are many worse off than ourselves.
Certainly.
I remember you nightly in my prayers, Vicar. Every night I think of you.
I must take my leave.
How's Wenner?
Well...
And the baby? Must be quite the little boy now. I saw Wenner in the street one day, but she looked the other way. Is all well between you? I'm sure my sister is everything a good wife should be. Will you come again? Perhaps one evening when Arthur is at home. He's here every night except Thursdays. Thursdays he always visits his parents, and he's never home till late.
I'll remember.
Give my fondest affections to my sister, will you?
Caroline? Where are you? The baby asleep in her cot and no sign of her.
Well, she can't be too far away.
Well, even the servants aren't answering the bell.
Dwight, what's the matter? I noticed something on the ride from Truro. Is all well between you and Caroline?
Caroline has never been happier. The baby is her achievement. Justification for all her patience in nursing me back to health. Never giving up. Something to show for it at last. Caroline?
Did you know he wrote poems? Hugh Armitage? Did you?
I knew he was a poet.
That last visit before he died, Falmouth asked me to accept his nomination for Parliament. I had it in mind to refuse. But when we got home, I found a poem written to her by Armitage.
You mean this poem had something to do with your acceptance?
Well, victory meant going to London, getting away. Well, why not? I felt so useless to her. Irrelevant.
You were mistaken in that, I'm sure. This poem.
Well, I don't know what it meant. Perhaps it was just a poem. But it spoke of happiness revealed by favor of a single day. And there were images of the sea, and wind and shore, and of her heel print in the sand.
Dwight? Oh, thank God you're back. I went to look for you. You're needed at the Poldark mine. There's been an accident, Ross. One of the loads flooded.
Not dry after all. Those old workings of Wheel Maiden must have been full nigh right up to the top. Once the pick went through, well, by the time I'd called the others, what began as a trickle was shooting like a fountain from the rock. Next thing, a great wall of water knocked us all down.
Who's missing?
It's hard to be sure. Tom Sparrow got washed away, and Sid Bunt, and... Well, let's pray Bill Thomas be not taken after all we did to get him to the shaft. He'll come bravely, won't he, Dr. Innes?
He looks finished to me.
Turn him over.
Sam? Sam!
What'd he be doing, Dr. Ennis? He opened his eyes. He's gonna come brave.
Yes. He'll recover now.
The men are saying it was Sam who got them out. He went down through the water to the lower level to warn them.
Aye, they'd have mostly all been drowned if it hadn't been for Sam.
Sam.
Oh.
I didn't think to find you at home. Why aren't you working then?
Why ain't you?
Master's given most of his servants a day off to celebrate. Have you heard the good news?
News?
It's been a great victory for England. Master was so excited. Nile in it. Admiral Nelson destroyed the French ships, blowed all out the sea, yes.
Pray it'll end the war.
Bells be a ringing London way. Expect they'll peal at Saul soon.
What brings you here, Emma?
I done a letter for you, Sam.
Who learned you to write?
I asked my friend Mary to put it down for me. She said I'd give her some awful hard words to spell, but I'd give her a shilling for doing it. It'd be a good long letter, Sam.
Nothing more to be done, sir.
Thank you, Zaki. Still here, Dwight?
Try in case you brought anyone else up from below.
We lost 2 men, that's enough.
Demelza has helped Bill Thomas home. She said she'd see you at Nampara.
That was a miracle, reviving Thomas. I'd have sworn he was drowned. Such knowledge must make you proud.
There's not so much pride to be had from what a doctor can do as despair from what he can't. And I think of the hundreds of babies born where the clumsy midwife bites the cord with her teeth, and they thrive. Yet a child, attended by her own father, given all the care and attention of a princess.
Sarah? What's wrong with Sarah? Dwight?
She has a congenital defect of the heart, possibly even a perforation. Well, it's easily detected. You only have to listen to her chest.
What does it mean?
It means she'll never go out hunting with her mother, I know that. She'll be a weakling all her life.
Does Caroline know?
Should I tell her?
Well, if she has an invalid child.
Fathered by an invalid, should I tell her that as well?
Dwight.
I beg you not to mention this to Demelza.
She'd keep your confidence.
But she'd give it away in her face.
Are you really sure, Dwight?
There's no doubt. Well, at least you'll soon have Bill Thomas to wield a pick for you again.
You'm such a good man, Sam. You don't know the world so well as me. 'Tis reputation that you count among your praying folk. If I wed you in chapel, folk could point and say, look ye at that there brazen hussy. Who does she think she be wed to? Our Sam, our preacher, or what we've all seen arm in arm wi' half the fellas. Ned Hartnell, do love me truly, Sam. 2nd footman he is now. 10 year older than me, but jolly and kind and thoughtful of me. Not a wild man like Sid Rouse, nor yet a good man like you. But he have good ways, and quiet ways, and do work honest. And I do say I will marry him, Sam. I do surely like him, and he truly love me, so I be gonna wed him. And that's the way it must be.
What's the damage to the mine? Well, according to Ross, it means loss of profit for 3 months. But lucky for us, we've got just enough money to cover it at Pascoe's bank.
Caroline.
Ross.
It's a while since I've seen you here.
I've had to quite forgo my visiting these days.
How's Dwight?
Working so hard, you'd think the devil were at his heels. I don't know what's come over him lately. Do you know he's even agreed to see Morwenna Whitworth again?
Wasn't she Dr. Behenna's patient?
Oh, that's what I said. But apparently Behenna's called in Dwight for a second opinion. Can't you just picture them, conferring on medical symptoms and grave medical discourse?
What's wrong?
Oh, as if Dwight would betray a medical confidence to me. Not that he's home enough these days to even to talk to me.
It doesn't seem to worry you.
Well, I do have my consolation now. Well, that reminds me. Consolation will be demanding to be fed unless I've galloped home within the hour.
How is Sarah?
Lazy as ever. She hardly moves a muscle in her cot. When do they begin to talk, Demelza?
Oh, Caroline, don't be impatient. She's only 4 months old. She'll be running round asking questions in no time.
Bye, Ross.
Goodbye, Caroline.
And then you'll wish she was a baby again.
Did you know the Warleggins are having a big party over at Penrice next month?
Oh, well, we won't be invited.
Oh, these days I care not if we are. I must be getting old.
Bye, Caroline.
Bye-bye, Demelza.
George and Elizabeth are having a party.
What Dwight said was true.
What?
We have a lot to be thankful for.
It's easy for Dwight. Accident at the mine, Johnny ill in bed. I was going to ask Caroline if he could call, but if he's as busy as she says he is.
Jeremy only has a cold.
Feverish with it.
Forget Jeremy. It's us.
Us?
Me. The ghost won't be laid. But you're right. We mustn't spoil what's left. You called me a stranger. Perhaps. But I'm a stranger that knows every inch of your skin. I have no idea whether you and I will ever laugh together again as we used to. There's anger and jealousy still. Should we not try to begin again? Be thankful for what we have.
More questions? Another inquisition?
You see, even her most casual utterances are reddened at the
You
fact that...
too, Dr. Ennis.
If you remember how well we got on before, Mrs. Whitworth, you'll know there's no reason for anxiety now. Shall we go to another room? Tell me, how old is your son now? He must be growing up fast.
Yes, he's a very forward child.
Why you felt obliged to call in that opinionated young man, I'll never know.
My own examinations of Mrs. Whitworth have convinced me that she's in a very unstable frame of mind.
So what more is needful?
A great deal more, if you want me to write that definitive letter to your bishop.
Seems to me, Sam, most people live their lives without half the trouble come to we. This news of Emma makes us two of a kind.
At least for me, I have the comfort of the Holy Spirit. That gives me faith.
But it'll come to naught, this wedding?
That only Jesus will order my life and hers as best to further his will. But what of you? Pleasures me to hear you're going with a young woman again.
Mary Ann Tamblyn. I've seen her thrice and all but once by accident. 'Tis oversaying it to say I'm going with she.
I would like to see you wed to a fitty young woman.
I'll grant you, Mary Ann is a goodly person. She would do her most for any man she were wed to. But I could not bring her a full heart.
Love might come. If you shared in the love and worship of Christ, it would come.
I love Morwenna.
To grieve over what can't be undone is foolish. In time, even the sorest wounds must heal. Morwenna's wed.
And is in hell.
Drake, you cannot know this.
He's been with her for nearly half an hour.
The longer the better.
As if there could be any doubt.
I attended Nathaniel Pierce this morning.
Is he? Has Has there been any new cause for alarm?
No, no. You may rest assured that Mr. Pierce will live a few weeks yet. Pretty much appreciates your regular Thursday evening visits to him. He's only sorry you have to cut them so short.
I have to get back to my wife.
Yes, of course.
It is the duty of a vicar to minister to the sick. I do not shirk it. Well, sir.
I have examined Mrs. Whitworth as thoroughly as I can. I have no doubt at all, Dr. Behenna, that she is in need of special care.
Her mother and her sisters must be informed. You will need the permission of the relatives, Whitworth.
The care I have in mind could, of course, be provided by her husband.
When she refuses me even my conjugal rights, threatens to kill our son if I enforce them.
Do you need to enforce them? Dr. Behenna, it is surely not for you or me to pronounce on the success or failure of a marriage. In my view, if a husband cannot win his wife with kindness, sympathy, and love, he deserves to do without her. As to our patient's state of mind, all symptoms of hallucination, morbid melancholia, folie circulaire, or other indications that she is losing her reason, I can detect nowhere. In my professional opinion, there is no doubt whatsoever. Your wife, Mr. Whitworth, is completely sane.
How many will be coming from London?
Several members of Parliament, the useful ones, like Monk Adderley, and, of course, Unwin Trevornance, the Hastons, and Lord Deveron. And I suppose we must entertain the rest of local society.
We shall have to engage more servants. The staff at Penrice are hardly up to an occasion of this kind.
Engage whom you will. Spare no expense. It's important to make something of a show, my dear.
Oh, Londoners never move once they've made the journey. They'll stay for days.
Well, Penrice can accommodate them.
It's not you they look to for their convenience.
Knowing you as I do, I'm confident that none of the guests will have cause to complain.
Really means a lot to you getting back to Parliament, doesn't it?
It's not so much the seat that matters, it's the power that goes with it.
Forgive me, Ross, but I can make no calls today.
No, I understand. I keep telling Demelza the whole country is snorting and sniffing. But since I was passing, I thought I'd call.
You see, Sarah has caught a cold, too.
Oh, I'm sorry. Nothing serious? Dwight?
I believe I told you she would be an invalid all her life. I told myself the same thing, to help me believe that were she to be kept from infection, given all the care and attention that a loving father, who was himself a doctor.
What are you saying?
Inwardly, I knew that come the slightest infection, even a cold, her heart would not be able to stand the strain.
Well, she's not...
It will be a matter of hours.
This can't be so.
I could bring Bill Thomas back to life, but I can't save my own daughter.
Oh, surely only a cold.
Will be enough.
Does Caroline know?
I told her this morning. I felt I had to now.
How's she taking it?
Very well. It has come as rather a shock. But you need not worry. Caroline's taking it very well. Are you offering me a drink, Dwight? My husband clearly wishes me to become a toper. Or does he think that drink will soften the tragedy and turn it into something lighter?
Caroline, you are deceiving no one.
Or are we perhaps proposing a toast to someone? Do you know, Ross, I quite neglected my poor little dog for Sarah. What a mistake I made. How annoyed my uncle would have been that Sarah should have so short a stay.
She may come through it. You can't be sure. She may live yet.
I'm glad Demelza is not with you, Ross. I am hard and I can fend for myself. Demelza would not be so controlled. Demelza would not be so dignified. She does not understand dignity and all that it means. I believe that Demelza would cry. And that I rather think would ruin us all.
Thank you.